Hello again, and good evening. So excited to be here. We are talking through chapter 2 of the book, Your Awesome Self. And I call this Walking into Awesomeness because it's not the kind of thing that you could just pick up one day and have. We kind of have to walk into it. And that's why we're here. Reading a book is very nice, and discussing it with a group, sharing it in a group of women who have the same focus, that's where we find real change, because change needs time and focus and attention and space. So here we are doing this, walking through it on a weekly step-by-step format, and it's very exciting. I want to just say, as a few people asked me about it, it definitely does not take the place of a real in-person group, or a group where you're just a small group of women, even on Zoom, and we're really where everyone's talking freely and completely interactively. It does not take the place of that, because it's like when you're in a group and you're actually sharing all the questions and the worksheets that we have, and you're just sharing freely the thoughts that come up for you. It is amazing. Nothing else compares to it, really. It's there's nothing as powerful as that. I know in my own journey, groups made a huge difference. Being part of a group gives you so much validation, support, encouragement on a deep level. Like, it's bigger than what we could describe in words. So join a group, a small one, if you have one in your area, or if you could on Zoom. And if not, start one on your own. There's a group starting next week, Be'ezras Hashem, in Muncie. For those of you who live in Muncie, if anyone is interested in joining, message to 718-576-0338. And I'll put you in touch with Yidis or with Rifki, who are the two women who are starting the group in Muncie. Okay, so let's jump into chapter 2. Our personal truths, the ideas that we believe, have incredibly powerful impact in our lives. That's what chapter 2 is about. And very often we do not know what they are. We don't have any awareness about what those beliefs even are, because we're so used to being with them. It's like almost like just like we don't notice our skin. We don't notice, those permanent lenses that people put into their eyes. The whole point of popping them onto our eyes is that we should forget that we're wearing the lenses, right? So we forget that we're attached to these beliefs. So in chapter 2, we talk about slowing down and noticing the beliefs that we're living with, becoming aware of them so that we can get a handle on that. And with that, we really could get a handle on our lives, because awareness is the beginning of all change. It's literally like turning on the lights. Until then, without awareness, we trip and we fall over our beliefs. We trip over our own selves, and we don't even realize what's going on. Right? It's like a stumbling block. It's like walking in the dark, on a road that has all kinds of obstacles, boxes and pit holes that we could trip into. But just turning on the light allows us to, first of all, see where we're going so that we don't fall, or even just actually move things around. I always say this story. I've said it a couple of times, but it goes right here. That story with a man passing by the elephant. Did I say it in this group? I don't know. I sure said it on Zoom more than once, but that a man passed by the elephant who was not tied, was only tied with not bound in heavy chains, was only tied with this little thin rope. And he wondered why. If the elephant needed to be tied, then surely it needed a much stronger, more powerful chain. And if it did not need to be tied, what was the point of this little thin rope? And the trainer explained to the man that when the elephant was a baby, it actually was small enough to be restrained by the little thin rope. And it was. And this little thin rope was used to restrain the elephant. In fact, for days and weeks, the elephant pushed and pulled and stretched as far as it could and as hard as it could, exerting all its energy, but it could not break free. And finally, the elephant resigned to its reality. It's never going to break free. It's going to be tied by this rope. The rope will restrain it and limit it and contain it, and it will never break free. Now, days passed, weeks passed, months passed, and everything changed. Everything changed about the elephant. With one swish of its tail, it could break free, but it doesn't go anywhere because it never even tries. The minute it sees this rope, it just automatically assumes that it will never be able to break free. And I personally found this story so powerful, because I know that all of us, we all have, like the elephant, we all have beliefs that limit us, that restrain us, that inhibit us. And they don't have to. They're there from a time in our lives when they were powerful enough to hold us back, to keep us stuck in certain situations and certain settings. They were powerful enough to limit us, to make us dependent or needy. But now as adults, everything about us changed, and yet we still go back to our own roles, to our own script, to our old scripts, to the old rules that other people have made for us, even though we're fully capable of changing them. And so that's what this chapter is about. This chapter is about developing awareness of what those beliefs are, because the elephant doesn't think, hey, I am being limited, I am being restrained, and I don't have to be. The elephant just takes it for granted. This is how it is. This is how it was. This is how it is. And this is how it will always be. And that is so tragic. So let's let go of our disempowering beliefs. And the way we're going to do that is first by noticing what they are. But before we jump into the worksheets, I want to share something different with you. In preparing for tonight's discussion, I was looking through my old notes, like from before the book was printed, when we did this in a group format. And I found something that I wrote 8 years ago as part of our learning groups. And really what it is one of the first drafts of the book. And as I read it last night, I realized that there's an important idea here that never actually made it into the book. I don't think I spoke about it in the book, but that idea is that it is actually terrifying to look inside our hearts and our minds. It is terrifying, so terrifying that many of us decide it's just not possible, and we give up on even trying. We decide that it's not necessary just because it's so difficult. I want to read some of the notes I wrote back then, okay? I called it the terror of looking inside. And it's interesting, in the book I start, when I was 16, I was on a roller coaster. Here I wrote, when I was 16, I was a farce. I was the picture of joy and positive energy, yet it would take many years before that picture became the person I really am, or at least most of the time, or at least some of the time. I just added that in. It always seemed that life was about doing, initiating, creating, building, producing, and most importantly, accomplishing. If I ever felt unpleasant emotions, I swept them aside or rose above them. I had no time to sit and feel. I struggled at times, but I always forged ahead. I worked hard, I played hard. I used to say, the best thing about being busy is having no time to think. Looking back, I now know that I was distracting my mind and heart and avoiding being with myself, avoiding being with my inner self. The thought of being in that deep, open space was scary. It was chaotic in there. It was both full and empty, hot and frigid, intensely good and horribly bad. I was scared of looking. What if I would fall into that place? What if I would get lost in the chaos? What if I would get stuck and never, ever get out? So I stayed away. Okay, that's basically, that's the piece that I wrote. And it's so interesting because I think that years later, when I was actually writing the book, maybe I wasn't afraid anymore of looking inside. Probably I wasn't, it didn't take up so much space, but back then, the fear, the terror of just becoming aware of what I was thinking, of just being, sitting still, was so frightening that I just avoided it all the time. But if you ask me, it's interesting because I remember in those early years when we started those books, I would bring this up. Inevitably, somebody would pull out their phone and get busy and distract, and they were really distracting themselves. And on their way out, they would say, this is really nice, but life is so busy. I don't know. And I knew they were out. They're not going to come back. They weren't yet ready. They were not yet ready. And I didn't even realize what a big deal it is to be looking inside. A lot of us are uncomfortable with just looking in the mirror and being with our thoughts. I know that I was. And yet I would never, at that time also, I would never get into a car with an invisible driver. I would never get into the back seat of a remote control truck. I would never do that. But as long as I was not aware of my own inner thoughts, of my own truck driver or airplane driver, the pilot of my plane, it was like letting these unseeable, invisible forces drive my life. It really was. So learning how to listen to our inner world, learning to understand what's going on inside of us is really the first step towards finding out who we are and finding out what our work is. But it takes a tremendous amount of courage. I just want to validate that fact, that it does take a tremendous amount of courage. And what that looks like, a lot of people, I'll never forget, I was walking with my son, who's now, Baruch Hashem, an adult. At the time he was 4 years old. I was walking with him up 15th Avenue in Borough Park, holding his hand, and across us, coming towards us, was a man or a woman, I don't remember, holding a leash with a huge dog. As the dog approached us, and as we approached the dog, my son kind of like squeezed in closer to me to like that, that I should protect him. So, and the dog was on a leash. It was a regular friendly dog. It was very big, but it seemed to be a friendly dog. I told my son, don't worry. Don't be afraid. The dog is on a leash and it's not touching you and it's fine. Don't be afraid. Big macho boy of mine said, Ma, I'm not afraid. I just don't want the dog to bite me. It's so funny. I'll never forget it. Ma, I'm not afraid. I just don't want the dog to bite me. He was not lying. He was honestly, legitimately, he did not feel afraid. He just made this calculation. If the dog comes near me, it's going to bite me. Therefore, I will not go near it. It was an intellectual decision they did not even realize had a name. It was called fear. And I think many of us have those rules like, oh, I just don't do those things. I don't sit and think, okay? I'm not that type. I don't have a cup of coffee with myself. I don't do anything without my phone. Lately, as I'm doing, because we're doing the book again, so the last week, even just, I noticed how I reach for my phone whenever my mind gets uncomfortable. And I'm not embarrassed to say this in public because that's what this is about. We all have to work on it. And I think it's just fascinating. I look at myself as an adult. I am, Baruch Hashem, almost 49 years old, right? I should be able to handle my discomfort. I should be able to sit with an uncomfortable feeling for a couple of minutes. But the first thing I'm uncomfortable, I reach for my phone, as if I didn't check my email 5 minutes ago, as if I even am going to respond. My hands are busy, I'm doing something. I'm not going to be responding anyways to that email. What's the point of reading it now? Like, really? But if we notice where our fingers go, whether they go for the chocolate chips, whether they go for the phone, whether they go for, something else to keep us busy, a game to distract ourselves with, a problem to obsess over, maybe we're just avoiding being with ourselves. Maybe we're obsessing about other people are doing wrong because we don't want to feel what's wrong inside of our own hearts. So I just, I remember once talking to somebody about this and they asked me, well, what changed? What changed? Someone asked me, why'd you start a school? I said, I was young and dumb. They looked at me and they said, well, what changed? I said, nothing. That's why I still run a school. Just kidding. My point is like, what changed? What made me able to notice that it takes courage to look inside and to find that courage to look inside? I really believe it's the power of the group, because the fact that we're a group discussion based on this book, or based really on any book that is going to be an open conversation, getting into a deeper level of reality, is just going to get us feeling much more safe. It's gonna calm down our defense mechanisms. It's gonna open up our hearts to the possibilities. It's gonna give us that validation, that security, that it's okay to look. We will not get stuck. We will not get lost. We will not become defined by anything that we find inside, because we are already who we are. The group is literally like an embrace. It's a circle of support, friendship, and validation. And if I could summarize it in 3 words, this is not a commercial for a group. This is really, if anybody wants to get more out of this, maybe this in itself, if people share on the chat or people speak up, then this group can also be validating, and we'll open up to that in a minute. But this group tells each and every one of us, I think it's the 3 most important words that inspire change, that allow us to grow. Those 3 words are: you are okay. You are just fine. You're doing fine. You're okay, and you will be okay no matter what you see inside of yourself. No matter what you share, you will always be okay. That gives us that trust. I'm going to be okay. Allows us to keep climbing. Climbing. When you want to go on that, what's it called? The zip line. You need the harness to hold you down. You are okay. You can go on that zip line. You're not going to fall. You're attached to something very secure. Believing that we're okay gives us that security to fly, to open up our hearts, to really look inside, to discover who we are on a deeper level. So this group that we have going here, it's really nice. I just want to encourage you one more time. If you're not part of a small group, join one. I know that there are some people here who are part of groups that take place on Zoom. If anybody doesn't mind putting out that information, or put out any information that you have about a group that you're on, that other people, that's open to other people joining, that would be amazing. Because did I mention it before? I think it's a really good idea to be part of a group. Okay. Okay, so that's all. That's all I have to say about chapter 2 in the book. Okay. And now the worksheets are self-explanatory. I don't know if we can go through them. I don't want to start with them. I rather open up to discussion, because the summary of the worksheets is that whenever you're feeling intense emotions, whenever you're feeling frustrated, overwhelmed, down in the dumps, or even over the top, and you want, over with joy, abounding with joy, slow down, and just notice what's going on in your mind and in your heart. And how do you notice? By asking yourself questions. The nature of our brain is that when we ask ourselves a question, our brain will work to answer it. So be careful what kind of questions you ask. Don't ask yourself, why am I doing this? Instead, ask, what's going on? What am I, like, what's that? What tape is playing? What am I afraid of? What do I need? What rule is being violated? What principle that I hold dear is being run over and trespassed? What's going on? What is it? That kind of leaves it. Why am I doing this? It kind of, I personally feel like my defense mechanisms go up, or it takes me down to like blaming and other directions. If I just say, what's going on? What am I thinking? What do I believe here? What do I need? What am I afraid of? It helps, it opens up to real discovery. So does anyone have any personal experience, any thoughts that would be meaningful for the group to hear? I also want to ask if you had any moment of insight over the past week. I would love if the group could hear it. any moment of connection. It was Hanukkah, it was a long week. So it might be hard to think back, but if you can, somebody sent in a beautiful experience. I'm actually going to share it if that's okay. Okay. So remember last week we were talking about values and how whatever we value has power and has like that's where our emotions are. So a mother shared this. She said, I usually fold my laundry on the dining room table. Sometimes after I finish folding the laundry, I push off putting it away into the right place. I wait and I do it later in the evening. One day I was thinking, why am I pushing off putting away my laundry? Why am I not putting away the laundry now? It's not hard. I could do it now. I am not holding a baby. I'm not busy. I'm not relaxing. What's driving me over here? What's going on? She asked herself that magic question. What's going on? What's driving me in this situation? I realized, I'm going back to her words, I realized that I wanted the laundry to be out on the table so that when my husband comes home and when my children are around, they could see what I actually do all day. Otherwise, they would never know. They could see that I took care of the laundry and they could appreciate it. As soon as I realized what was driving me, I realized something else. I realized that I can actually compliment and validate myself and appreciate myself for doing the laundry. All of a sudden, I did not feel needy for my work to be noticed and appreciated. I realized that I was fine with my own compliments and I had a good feeling. I felt whole and full from the inside. And I love this story. I love it. I love it because the person who wrote it is being honest about something we all do. It's like a little detail in her life, but it shows so much awareness. So she didn't have a major, intense emotional experience around this situation, the laundry on the table, but she did ask herself, hey, why Taka am I not putting it away? What is going on? I just want to put it out there because I know that for people who are new to this, you're gonna have this question. Yes, it is nice to get compliments from other people. Okay, let's validate that. There's nothing like being recognized and acknowledged and appreciated for your hard work by the people you are doing it for, right? We want our work to be noticed, respected, and appreciated. We want ourselves to be noticed, appreciated, and seen, and valued and respected for what we're doing, right? And I think if we all have those piles of neatly folded laundry and we want everyone to see it, to share the joy of the hard work we did, and we decide, you know what, I want to intentionally push this off. That's great. Let's go for it. If I do something and I want one of my kids to see it, or I want my husband to see it, or my good friend to see it, what's wrong with that? We all want our stuff. It's like publishing your work. It's exciting, right? She was publishing her neatly folded laundry. It's the same thing as publishing a song or publishing any work that you do, or sharing your accomplishment. You lost 15 pounds. You ran 3 miles. That's great. There's nothing wrong with if you're aware of like, hey, I want to be noticed for this. I want to share it. I want to share the joy. I want to celebrate this together with somebody who cares about me, who appreciates my hard work. I like that. That's so healthy. It's where does it become toxic and where does it become unhealthy? Where could it even become destructive, not just to ourselves, but to the people we're trying to get the attention from, is that when we don't realize and acknowledge our neediness, when we feel so needy and we're not consciously aware of it, and we feel that sense of shame and inadequacy, and we need that attention and we need that approval, we're desperate for it, that's when it becomes unhealthy. But until then, it's beautiful. With awareness, as soon as you're aware, hey, I want this attention, one of my kids says, everybody, I'm home, everybody, I'm home. And we love it and we laugh. She's acknowledging, I like to be noticed when I walk through the door. And that's beautiful, So this is not about not having compliments. This is about noticing what is driving us, noticing what we value and acting from that place of conscious awareness. So now I'm gonna check out the chat. Yay, I forgot about that. Shterna has been part of our group for a long time, for more than a year already. And so her husband was diagnosed and passed away within a very, very, very short amount of time, like a matter of weeks. From the day of the diagnosis till the day of his passing was only 3 months. And that was a devastating, he went from being fully functional to losing everything, and ultimately himself. Like, it was very, 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 very tragic. And just sharing that on the day of her husband's birthday, which was the day after the anniversary of the day that they came together to America, and they came with nothing, and they worked together to build financial stability and to their family, and they did everything like one person, and in her own words. And now, and a day later, it's her husband's birthday, and she is alone without him. He's definitely with her in spirit, but she was feeling the emptiness, the void of his physical presence not being here, and she cried. And her son encouraged her not to cry and to find strength in the fact that she is celebrating her husband's life and continuing with him. And isn't that what he always wanted? And very, very beautiful, encouraging words. Darlene, I want to just share something. You know, some people look at tears as a sign of weakness. I really believe that tears is a sign of strength. You know why? Tears are not a sign of weakness. Tears are a sign of strength. Tears are a sign that we are willing to open up our hearts in a real way, in an honest way, in a complete way. And if you think about it, what is happiness? Is happiness something from the outside, or is happiness something that comes from the inside, a decision that we make to make peace with our lives? Happiness that comes from the outside comes without tears. Those are not tears. But happiness, you know, it's just pleasure. It's not really happiness. But true happiness, the kind of happiness that comes from the inside, very often, if it came from a place, you know, like the visual that's coming up for me in my mind is like, you know, you see a show and there's like curtains, and like as the show goes on, like more curtains open up and another layer of curtains open up, right? Some of us live on the outside of the curtain. I used to live on the outside of the curtain, like I was saying before. I lived on the outside of the curtain. I was afraid to go behind the curtain. I was afraid of tears. I couldn't relax enough to cry. But that means that my whole life was superficial. That joy that I thought was joy was only skin deep. It was only as deep as the curtains could go. If I open my heart to the place where tears fall from, to the place where I do feel broken, where I do feel alone, where I do feel so much pain, in that place, if I open that place and then I welcome Hashem's presence into that place, and I allow Hashem's presence to comfort me, to give me strength, to give me reassurance, to hold me, to be with me in that place of my tears, first of all, it's a much deeper feeling of happiness. It's a much deeper feeling of comfort and connection, number one. And number two, it's a much deeper feeling. It's bringing Mashiach to the world. Because what is Mashiach? What is Geula all about? Geula is the transformation. Geula is that realization that we are not alone, that Hashem is with us, that Hashem makes a difference. So if we don't acknowledge the pain, then what difference is Hashem making? In the pain, in the tears, in the darkness, when we are there, when we allow ourselves to go there, that's where Hashem can make it, that's where we experience the biggest difference. That's where the biggest transformation. So you are literally a shining light. And when you say from that place of tears and from that place of real terrible, tragic loss, and you could tell us that in every situation you could find a blessing and that we could find strength and look up and see the sunshine and share so much love with everybody around you. You know, you gave us, it has so much more meaning and depth. And I'm sure I'm not the only one who feels this way. If anybody else wants to speak up. Wow, you know, you're reminding me of something. I was thinking while you're saying this, that your husband is for sure smiling with you. And as I said that, as that thought popped up to my mind, I remind myself of a letter from the Lubavitcher Rebbe. There was a woman who lost her husband in a very terrible accident. And the Lubavitcher Rebbe wrote a letter to her. And this is what he wrote. She was mourning and she couldn't get over her grief. And she was young and she had young children and it was a terrible tragedy. And the Rebbe told her that a relationship between two people is not about their bodies. It's about their souls. It's about their personalities. It's about their ideas. It's about a deeper place within them. And that part of them, that relationship is about the soul. It's not about just the body. It's about the soul. And he said the soul, a Jewish soul, is eternal. And even though the body passed away, the soul is eternal and lives on. And the Rebbe said these words. He said, when you are happy, it was to her, he said, your husband is happy with you and rejoicing with you. And that's a gift that you could give not only to yourself, but also to your husband. So I am sure that he's rejoicing with you in the celebration of your son's entry into school. And you should see continued blessings. And we are going to meet your husband very soon when Mashiach comes. They're all coming back. That is such a beautiful story. That is really, 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 really amazing. I want to share the process, because you're talking about doing the hard work, but what does that look like in a step-by-step format? Let me lay it out for 2 minutes, okay? I don't know, that was just an amazing story. And by the way, ladies, this is what happens at a group. First of all, we are all blessed that it is part of the group. Thank you. That was just wonderful. And you're always an asset here. So no pressure, no pressure. It's very pressuring. It was disgusting of me to say I apologize. But this is what happens at a group. You know, one person ask a question, the other person explains her question, somebody else jumps in with the story. And the most juiciest parts of what we come out with is nothing that I'm going to say. It's what you hear from the group, and the interaction itself is just so empowering because we realize we're all in it. We really are all in it together. It's just so incredible. So what the work looks like to me, step by step, is this. First of all, and I hope this is not going to be boring, but I think you need to know the system in order to be able to work the system. The system is that we have 3 levels of understanding: Chachma, Bina, and Das. Chachma is that fleeting understanding where it's like that molecule, a speck, a drop of insight, that flash of inspiration that it's not yet fully worked out. Bina is a developed thought, a developed idea. We meditate on it. We give ourselves space to analyze, to reflect, to absorb, to be with it, to look at it from different angles. You know, the word meditation is Bina. Bina means his beinanus, right? To meditate, to sit and think about it at length, give it different words, give it different descriptions, give it different, come at it from different angles. And then Das is the knowledge. Das is when we make room by letting go of things that contradict it. Let me tell you what Bina looks like, okay? Bina looks like this. At a Shabbos table, my father very often, he would always tell us, every Shabbos meal, he would tell us a story of tzaddikim, which, by the way, is not a parenting group, but, you know, stories of tzaddikim, of miracles, amazing wonders. In retrospect, I feel like he kept pulling us into another world where miracles are possible, where Hashem actually runs the world, literally, you know, where where good things happen to good people because Hashem is protecting us. But that's besides the point. But he would tell the story, and after he told the story, he would look at us and he would say, "A wunderliche Meise." Wunderlich is like amazing, a wonderful story. Wow, what a wonderful story. And he would repeat it and look around the room. Wunderliche Meise, wunderliche Meise, looking around at every, at every person, literally for a full minute, 90 seconds on the clock. And he modeled to me what that looks like when you just be with a thought. He wasn't saying anything new, just like, wow, amazing. Like, let it sink in. Let it sink in. We're so busy reaching for our phone. When we read the news, it never ends. There's no pause. You read it and it scrolls onto in a magazine. At least it has a beginning, a middle, and an end. The news websites, if you read it, you scroll and it goes to next and to the next. And you never have the pause button. You never stop. We never have the time that it takes to absorb, to let things sink in. So Bina is just letting it sink in, downloading the positive energy. Now, there's time for this every single day. If we want Hashem to mean something to us, that when we think about Hashem, that story that I always tell with that kid in the forest who said, her big sister said to her, Hashem is stronger than your fear and bigger than the darkness, right? If we want to feel that Hashem is stronger than our fears and bigger than our darkness, we need to think about it every day. When we say Maida Ani in the morning, take 10 seconds, 15 seconds, 20 seconds, 30 seconds. It really doesn't have to be more. Just to be with the magnitude of what is happening here and now. That this awesome creator of the universe, to whom the very description creator is in itself limiting. The true definition is infinite, indescribable, Ein Sof. He has no end. Indescribable God is investing a part of himself within me. And that's the light that I'm going to be carrying throughout this day. Wherever I go, whatever I do, he's going to be with me. Just taking those 10 seconds in the morning to think about it makes it real. And obviously, as you go through the day, stopping at the mezuzah before you walk into the room to remember that Hashem is with you in the room, that everything belongs to him. Saying a bracha, shahakol nehiyah b'dvari, every single thing in the world happens only by his word. It's just so mind-boggling if we just take those few seconds throughout the day to be mindful, to be intentional, to let it sink in to us, to our minds. That's the Bina. The Das is something else. The Das is when we become one with those ideas. And my own understanding of this is, in order to become one, we need to let go of whatever it is that's getting in our way. It's one thing to download information. It's like downloading a program onto your phone. You download apps. Das is deleting the virus that's slowing everything down. Deleting the virus that's eating us up from the inside. Das is when we take the time and allow ourselves to listen to the inner voice inside of our mind that's saying, hey, big deal. So what? He did a miracle. It's Das is like listening to a story, and my mind, you know where my mind goes? Because I have a terrible Yetzer Hara. My mind says, big deal. So for her, Hashem did it. For me, it wouldn't happen that way. Or for so many other people, well, would you still believe? Would you still be so grateful and thankful to Hashem if you missed the car? What if you missed it by 5 minutes? Would that still be a wonderful story? That's my cynical voice talking, right? When I look at that voice and I say, actually, yes, because it was not about making it on time. It was about being in that place of connection, putting it down. Hashlech al Hashem Yehovacha, casting our burdens onto Hashem's shoulders and letting him carry it for us. That's what it was about. And in that space of that, that's the Das. When I could hear my critic and say, you know what? You are wrong. And the bigger truth is that. That is the bigger truth. Not this, not the cynicism. The light is the truth, not the negativity, not the darkness. The light is the truth. That's the das. Now, when you do this over and over, the chachma is the learning, bina is thinking about it, letting it sink in, das is noticing your resistance, noticing the resistance to feeling the joy of it. Das is noticing the critic, the negativity, the scorn, the belittling, the ridicule, right? This the sand, the mud we throw on top of the beautiful diamond, and noticing it and taking it off and deciding, no, you don't belong to me. No, I'm not. I'm letting go of you. I'm holding on to the truth that I want to live by, to the truth of Hashem. When we do this, Chachma, Bina, and Das, over a period of time, it really is a muscle that you get strengthened. Nobody runs a 13-mile marathon in one day. Nobody. People practice every day. They run for a little bit more. Every single day they run for a little bit more. And if they skip a day, it doesn't matter. They'll pick it up. They'll get back. They'll get back to it. But we run and we exercise and we do this hard work. The hard work of holding on to the truth, coming back to the truth, and coming back to it again while facing our resistance and acknowledging it and validating it. I love, my best part of the story is where you told your husband, I'm gonna have a temper tantrum now, okay? This is this is gonna be a temper tantrum. It's okay, I'm doing this. Love it. Now the das means something. Now it's das. Until then, it's just Bina. Go ahead.
I feel bad for whoever's not listening to you to this. I feel bad because this is just so, this is so cool. I'm loving it. I want to dance. It's so amazing. One thing I want to add to what you're saying, one thought that's coming up for me, and this gives me, what you're saying basically helps me feel there's no tears that are for nothing. Nothing. There's no such thing as tears that are for nothing. And I want to remind you, and I'm reminding myself too about this, that it's not even just because I will do anything to be close to Hashem, because it's not even so much, maybe it's not even about me. On some level, obviously it's about me, but on a different level, on a different dimension, it's about the world. It's about the pain of the Shekhinah that's in Galus, of God being in Galus, Hashem himself being in Galus, and the world being in a state of Galus. And every time we allow Hashem's truth to make a difference, we take away some of that brokenness of the world. It's not just that I get a gold star on my chart. It's I brought light into the world with this choice, with my choice. And to me, that gives it so much more meaning. I'll give up my tantrum, or at least I'll pause it for that, so that somebody else, so that the world could be healed, so that Mashiach could come in greater speed and with less brokenness all around. And you just gave us a present by sharing that experience. Thank you so much for sharing that. It's so fantastic. Thank you. I want to just go back for 1 second, everybody, to that process, right? We're talking about the Chachma, the Bina, the Das, doing that every single day. And then when you do that, then when you're in a moment of difficulty, when you have to make the choice that Rivki's talking about, or when you feel that overwhelming emotion that Danit was talking about, right? And you want Hashem to make a difference, like what, that's the work, right? Letting Hashem's presence make a difference to this moment, to this situation, so that I could actually feel encouraged and strengthened and reassured. It's like you put cookies in it, you put you know what it's like? When I was a kid, my father gave me a very good mashal, a visual, an analogy of what it's like to turn on the lights when we do a mitzvah. He said, when you do a mitzvah,
it's like turning on a light. He said, now in Gullus, it's like the fuse blew. We don't see the lights. Do you remember? I don't think, in the olden days, if the fuse blew in the basement, we would have to go to the basement and replace the fuse. I don't know if you have that kind of electricity system in Australia, but we would have to go to the basement and replace the fuse. So he said, when you're going down to the basement, right, what happens? You put on the fuse and you don't see what's happening upstairs. But the second you put in the fuse, all the light goes on. Because whatever switches were on, the light goes on. He says, when Mashiach comes, so when you're doing a mitzvah, you're turning on the light, but the fuse is out, so you don't see it. Mashiach comes, all the lights that we switched on are going to shine brightly. How did I go there? Because here's what I was saying. That's in the global picture when Mashiach comes, but I think it's true in our own lives as well. Every time you do a moment of reflection and connection, thinking about Hashem, allowing his presence to make a difference to this moment, just like what we were talking about before. Wow, it's amazing. Hashem created every single branch on that tree. Wow, it's amazing. Look, my hands move, and it's because Hashem is giving me life right now. Whatever it is, throughout the day, we're thinking about Hashem. Each time it's like turning on a light. And in that moment, when you need that light, it's there. It's there. You put on the fuse, it's like it floods into your heart. You release a switch and it floods into your heart. It fills your heart. You have to try it and you'll see. Because until you try it, it's just a bunch of words. But once you try it, I am 100% confident it will be your experience, not just a theoretical knowledge, but your real experience. And you might not have such a dramatic story to tell, like what is sharing or sharing. It might be just about, something simple, like what that other person shared about the insight that she had, that when she does her laundry, she could compliment herself and feel good about herself and feel whole. How simple, doesn't get simpler than that. And it doesn't get more profound. Like, it's just so rich. It's so transformative. It's so incredible. I'm going to quickly go through the chat to see if there are any questions here. But if anybody else wants to share, we are going to be wrapping up. Just before lighting the menorah one night, we received a call from our doctor that the blood work done earlier that day showed that a desired pregnancy was not yet going to be. I told our doctor, okay, so not yet. And to my husband, after we hung up, okay, Hashem wants us right here and right now to daven and cry in front of the menorah, knowing he wants our tefillos for us and others. I'm very sad but grateful for the Eis Ratzon, for that time to daven. The next day, tears came as I sang out Hallel, and my inner thoughts were, okay, Hashem, if you're showing off to the Malachim, look at my creation. Even when she wanted something now that isn't yet, she is still praising me through tears and connecting and happy to sing Hallel while crying and broken, wanting to sing praises that much more from the place of having what she and her husband are davening for. Yes, I am 100%. I agree with you that Hashem is definitely going to answer those tefillos with revealed brachas. I want to use the power of this group to give everybody a bracha here, that everybody should see revealed brachas, revealed goodness in all that you daven for. And all of our efforts to feel Hashem's presence in our lives should really bring revealed blessings, not just the goodness of in all that we daven for on every level, the small stuff, the big stuff, the big ticket items, the small little, reminders that he's here with us, revealed blessings and revealed goodness. This is such an amazing group, and definitely Hashem hears us and is with us, and I can't wait to hear about the miracles, because there's going to be miracles. There is going to be miracles. Okay, there's so much more good stuff here, but I realized that I did not even go through the worksheets at all. want to say that the worksheets do help you learn the process of identifying your thoughts. So take a few minutes, do it on your own, do it with a friend, and take time to become aware of what the beliefs are that are driving you, because that's how you do the DAS. You can't do DAS if you don't hear the resistance. Can't make a change on a deeper level without the awareness of what's going on a deeper level. So it's a very, very important piece. It is a piece that you can only do on your own or with a good friend. So go ahead and do it. And if anybody wants to share one thing you're taking away, there's a bunch of people on this group. Share something that you're taking away from the stories, from the personal experiences, and then we will call it a night. So I'm going to say a good Tanakh to everybody. Thank you so much for joining. We're doing parenting tomorrow night, a whole different kind of, it's much lighter. If you know of anybody that's interested, tell them to join. And Tanya tomorrow at 12:30 in the afternoon, New York time, at 9:30 in the morning in California time. Tanya in Real Life, we are starting from chapter 16 with a very quick short review of just to get us into the groove. Looking forward. I know that some of you will be there and I'm excited to see you again. Take care. Thanks again for joining.